Afternoon, guys. Welcome back. And to those of you who are just joining us for today and haven't been here in previous weeks, welcome. I will talk through how we do things here if you are new, but let's get straight into things today. So, for the last 3 weeks, we have been looking at obviously how to construct the news, how to do journalism, how to recognize fake news, how to produce what looks like really convincing news. Um, we're now moving on to a brand new area, which is Gothic literature. Okay, now Gothic literature, it is absolutely awesome. It's one of my favorite types of writing. It's going to be a lot more kind of imaginative and kind of intense, as opposed to the obviously everything that we saw when we were looking at constructing journalism. Okay, so it's really nice to see you all. I can see a few familiar names um, and even a familiar name from school. Hi, Kiko and Lydia. How are we doing? Um, so the way that we are going to do things today is this is what we're going to look to achieve. So we're going to try and explore some of the key features of Gothic writing so that we can come up with our own horrifying Gothic setting and atmosphere. Okay, so that's going to be our goal today. We're going to try and produce something, hopefully, some of our own writing, which is going to be just like the Gothic writing that we come across. A little bit of an introduction to me. If you are new, I know lots of you are obviously just starting today. Those of you uh, who are already here, you'll know this about me. But just a little kind of overview as to who I am. So I'm Louis Provis, head of English here at My Ed Space. I am a fully qualified English teacher with over 10 years of experience in the classroom. And in terms of my academic background, I studied English at the universities of Oxford and Cambridge. I have master's degrees from both universities, and for the last 9 years of teaching, I've also been working alongside English exam boards, helping to kind of mark real life exams. So when I say all of this, it's not just to blow my own trumpet, it's just so that you know that what I'm talking about comes from a lot of experience and a lot of kind of expertise in the area. Now, the way that we are going to interact here today, a few things that hopefully lots of you have seen on the walkthrough. Um, Essentially, you have already started doing this. You are engaging in the chat. It's really nice to see lots of people getting engaged. Um, and when I ask you for contributions, most of the time I'm going to be asking you to contribute in the chat. However, I'm also going to expect you, as we go through, to be completing your workbook. Now, the workbook is going to contain everything that you need to be able to engage with this lesson as fully as possible. So it will contain a copy of all of the text that we're looking at. It will contain pages to write on. So please ensure that you have your workbook in front of you so that you can actually engage with the lesson as much as possible. Now, of course, you are welcome simply just to sit there and just to go type in the chat as you go through. That's absolutely fine. However, to really get the most out of it, the workbook, either print it or have it on a tablet that you can annotate. You will need to write things down. Contributions will come in the chat, but your own takeaway from this lesson is going to be obviously the workbook. Okay. So hopefully that all makes sense and we can get started. So, welcome to the Gothic. So, the Gothic is a genre of literature, so a type of writing that was really popular in kind of particularly the 19th century, although it got started a little bit earlier. I saw someone on the chat mention the Castle of Otranto, which is widely regarded as the first Gothic novel ever written. But the extract that we're going to be looking at today, which is a really nice insight into what Gothic literature really looks like, is from Jane Austen's 1803 novel Northanger Abbey. So in this extract, the protagonist, Catherine, is staying at the Abbey, which is an ancient grand estate. It is late at night and a storm is in full force, but she has gone exploring and has stumbled across a roll of parchment hidden in a secret drawer. Before she has a chance to open it and read its contents, however, her candle, her only source of light, is snuffed out. Okay. So that's how our text is going to begin. I know lots of you are saying that you've come across the Gothic before. That's brilliant. This is going to be, hopefully not all of this will be new to you. Some of it will be, of course, because we're looking at things from a brand new angle today. So that is the context of the extract that we're looking at. Now let's read the extract in its entirety so we can really get stuck into what's going on. Now remember, Catherine's candle has just burned out just as she's about to read this hidden piece of parchment. Catherine, for a few moments, was motionless with horror. It was done completely. Not a remnant of light in the wick could give hope to the rekindling breath. Darkness, impenetrable and immovable, filled the room. A violent gust of wind rising with sudden fury added fresh horror to the moment. Catherine trembled from head to foot. In the pause which succeeded, a sound like receding footsteps and the closing of a distant door struck on her affrighted ear. Human nature could support no more. A cold sweat stood on her forehead. The manuscript fell from her hand, and groping her way to the bed, she jumped hastily in and sought some suspension of agony by creeping far underneath the clothes. She shuddered, tossed about in her bed, and envied every quiet sleeper. The storm still raged, and various were the noises, more terrific even than the wind, which struck at intervals on her startled ear. The very curtains of her bed seemed at one moment in motion, and at another the lock of her door was agitated, as if by the attempt of somebody to enter. Hollow murmurs seemed to creep along the gallery, and more than once her blood was chilled by the sound of distant moans. Hour after hour passed away, and the wearied Catherine had heard 3 proclaimed by all the clocks in the house before the tempest subsided, or she unknowingly fell fast asleep. Okay. So I can see that a few people have engaged on the chat during that process. I'm just going to have a quick look, see if there's anything that I missed that I needed to pick up on. Lots of you saying that you've engaged with the Gothic before. That's awesome. Some of you saying potentially you've looked at this text. Awesome. Did this in English. Cool. Did Gothic last year in year 8. Fabulous. Well, that's just lovely to hear. So the stuff that we will be covering today, hopefully it will be new texts to you and certainly will be a new angle on what you've done in school. Okay, so have a look at your workbook. You should have a copy of this extract. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do with that copy of the extract is to consider this question. What can we say about the emotions in this extract? Now, the way I want you to go about this is if you have a highlighter or a pen or one of 3 colored pens, that would be great. I want you to go through the extract and find any mention you can of emotions. So any emotion that Catherine is feeling, any emotion that she's trying to put across to the reader, anything to do with emotion, can you identify it? So highlight, circle, underline, whatever it is in your workbook, and then on the chat, throw in some of the quotes that you've managed to identify, put them in as soon as they come into your head, pop them into the chat, and we're going to explore what it is that is going on with emotion in this extract. So I can see a few people have started already. Some people have put scared, terrified, gloomy, envied, motionless. Is motionless an emotion? Catherine trembled from head to foot. Nice. Motionless with horror. Good. Agitated. It's interesting that you say agitated, that Cat, because in this particular context, agitated just means wiggled. If you have a look at the context where it comes up, it literally is just referring to wiggling. So it's the lock of her door being agitated, as in it was wiggled. So it's as if someone was trying to get in. Lots of you mentioning agony, really nice, overwhelmed. Yeah, make sure that these are words that come from the extract. So if you want to make it clear that you're quoting, use your quotation marks. Some of you have said eerie. Eerie, I don't remember eerie being in there, but lots of different spellings of eerie as well. Shuddered, nice. Supernatural, not necessarily an emotion. Yes, she envied quiet sleepers because she had trouble sleeping. Motionless with horror, fresh horror, startled ear, well spotted, crazy cat. Nice. Trembled. Good. Okay, so you're all generating really, really nice ideas. You're able to identify the emotions going on. Highlight them as well if you've been managed to if you've been able to spot them in the extract. Here are some of the ones that I found, and they're mostly ones that you guys mentioned as well. So we put horror, we've put trembled, we've put affrighted. Now, affrighted is not really a word that we would use very often anymore. It's quite an archaic word, archaic meaning old-fashioned, that we don't usually use very much anymore. Hastily, I don't think anyone mentioned that one. Hastily, meaning that she did something quickly and lacking in care. We've got agony, which is usually to do with pain. We've got shuddered, tossed about in her bed, envied every quiet sleeper. It talks about her startled ear this time. She had an affrighted ear before. Now she's got a startled ear. It talks about her blood being chilled, and also mentions her being wearied. Now, wearied can sometimes be a physical thing, so if you're really tired and fatigued, but it can also be an emotional thing if you're wearied, if you're kind of, sick and tired of things, you're kind of exhausted from everything that's been going on. I know what that's like. So these are the emotions that are going on. So now that we've gathered kind of a nice collection of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 10 or so quotations, can you tell me in the chat how, in general, she's feeling? If you were to pull all of this together in one sentence, how would you say that Catherine is feeling in this extract? So one sentence. Let's see those popping up in the chat. So some of you are going with one word. So some of you have put scared. Let's go with one sentence. So a full sentence. How is Catherine feeling at this point? Catherine was scared and tired. Nice. I like that. Lots of these are individual words, guys. Catherine feels disturbed and tortured. Yeah, I like that. Nice one, Schluck. Catherine is feeling terrified. Agreed. She is afraid and frightened. Good. She feels frightened. She will be feeling scared and nervous and start to feel shocked. Nice. Traumatized. Again, it's a great word, but try and do it as a sentence. She feels uneasy. Yeah, cool. Catherine is panicked. She is petrified. She's feeling that someone might be with her. Love that one, Tasby. Yeah. She feels frightened and nervous. Okay, so we're getting a general sense. Yeah. Really lovely sentence, guys. Well done. We're getting a sense of what is going on as we go through, all the way through this extract. She is feeling a whole host of emotions. Now, you've got to remember that she is in this big, scary building, essentially on her own. There is a storm outside. She's scared. She's in the dark. She's been wandering around at night and she's found this roll of parchment, which is basically like a piece of paper that's been rolled up, and she's just about to read what it says when the light of her candle is blown out. Now, bearing in mind this is 1803, so she couldn't just switch on a light, she couldn't just go on her phone and put the torch on. She is forced to just deal with the darkness, and she cannot read what is on that piece of paper. So she has this kind of sense of incompletion as well. Someone has just put Catherine feels horror stricken. I love that. Yeah, fantastic stuff, guys. I'm really, really liking your contributions. Now, let's try this again, but this time I want you to focus on the weather, because the weather in this extract really sets the scene for the emotions that she's feeling. So that all of those emotions, she's not going to be feeling them quite so intensely if the weather were not so intense as it is outside. So with a fresh color, if you have one, or just into the chat, if you're not able to access the workbook, just go straight into the chat. What can we say about the weather? Let's have some quotations about the weather. Quotations about the weather. Let's see. Violent gust of wind. Love it. Well spotted. Gloomy. Great word. Remember to use quotation marks, guys, if you are quoting from the extract. If you're not quoting from the extract, you don't need them. But let's get into the habit of using quotation marks because you're always going to need them whenever you quote from an extract. Nice. Violent gust of wind. Someone's saying pathetic fallacy. You're absolutely right, JJ. This is pathetic fallacy going on. Well done. Yeah, and Dear Sood, yeah, angry weather. That pathetic fallacy. Great stuff. What else? Storm still raged. Love it, Crazy Cat. Well done. Human nature could support no more. What's that got to do with the weather, Schlock? I think that's the 5th spelling I've seen of eerie. Still not quite right. I'm going to write on my screen the correct spelling of eerie because lots of people want to use it, don't they? So just bear with me. Eerie. Okay, that's what eerie looks like just above my head here. Darkness impenetrable and immovable filled the room. Is that weather or is that light? There's a lot of connection of those things, but not necessarily the same. Storm rage, the weather sets a stereotone. Brutal storm, nice. Because the weather is part of nature outdoors, which affects people. Yeah, I think it's a fair point, Schlock. So you can talk about her reactions to the weather, if you want to, and therefore you can say that the weather caused her to do this, and yeah, so yeah, absolutely fine, absolutely fine. As long as you make sure that you're mentioning that it is the effect of the weather, then you can make sure it's relevant. Cool. Right, fantastic stuff, guys. I'm really, really happy with what you've spotted. Here is what I spotted. So I didn't include all the ones that some of you guys have been mentioning, so you guys are absolutely smashing it. Well done. So I've got a violent gust of wind, I've got rising with sudden fury, I've got the storm still raged, I've got wind, and I've got that word tempest at the very end. I'm not sure if anyone mentioned that one. Tempest, as those of you who have studied Shakespeare's The Tempest will know, is a storm. Okay, so it's just another word for storm. You will notice that when Gothic writers are trying to create an atmosphere, they will use lots of synonyms or words for the same thing to try and kind of show that this thing is repeated. It keeps on coming, but we don't want to obviously have to repeat the exact same words over and over and over again because that's just going to be boring, isn't it? So lots of synonyms you're going to expect in Gothic writing. Rather than lots of different things happening, you're going to expect the same thing in lots of different words. Yeah, lots of you have mentioned on the chat that you know what storm, so you know that a tempest is a storm. So well done. Is that through Shakespeare or just because you guys read the dictionary before bed? I do, because I'm a nerd. Not gonna lie, I don't really like Shakespeare. Outrageous. Outrageous. How dare you? Um, well, you'll be pleased to know that in a few weeks' time we are going to be looking at Shakespeare, and I'm hopefully going to convince you that Shakespeare is something that we should love. Okay? So, in a sentence, then, as we've spotted it, well done, those of you who read dictionaries before bed and love Shakespeare, you are my new favourites. Well done. In a sentence, then, what is happening to the weather? Why is the weather like this? Let's just have one sentence to summarize those quotations we've gathered about the weather. Let's go. Yeah, glad you all correctly identified that I am a nerd. Um, yeah, don't worry if you don't like Shakespeare yet. I'm hoping that we all get there. Oh, someone's quoting some Hamlet at me. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous misfortune. Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, so that's obviously one of Hamlet's soliloquies from the play Hamlet. Let's see our sentences then. We've got the weather is outrageous and uncontrollable. Nice. Weather shows anger, which reflects Catherine's feelings at the time. Nice. The weather is deteriorating as time goes by from bad to worse. Love that, Schlock. The storm surged with anger. The weather is dark and unbearable. Nice. Love it. Sensory language to exaggerate the set of the storm. Yeah. The weather is like this because it gives off an eerie vibe. Nice spelling of eerie. We got it correct this time. Yeah, you guys have absolutely nailed it. Ominous atmosphere. I'm gonna also check the spelling of ominous because a couple of people have used the word. So if you want to say ominous, it's like this. Okay, ominous. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Um, Ominous atmosphere. And one of the things that is really worth bearing in mind is that the weather is out to get Catherine. Okay, the weather is against her. So look at this language here when we have rising with sudden fury. Okay, rising with sudden fury. It's because the weather is trying to make her feel bad. Okay, the weather is against her. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, guys, but let's pause the Shakespeare chat and get back to this. I do love that you are talking about Shakespeare, but save that for a couple of weeks' time if you don't mind. Great stuff, though. Nice to see that you've got lots of knowledge and enthusiasm about my main man, Will Shakes. For those of you asking what is fury, fury is anger. So this weather has been personified. So we've got personification of the weather, which is just a way of expressing that it is pathetic fallacy. So the weather is reflecting the bad atmosphere, the ominous atmosphere. For those of you asking what ominous means, it is where there is something unpleasant going on. Okay. Now, final one, final little bit of annotating and highlighting. What can we now say about the sounds in the extract? So if you've got a third color, you go through, you're going to highlight this, you're going to identify any sound that you hear. Okay, any sound that you hear, I want you to highlight it. If you don't have a highlighter, if you don't have a third color, if you're unable to annotate, then just put it straight into the chat. Remember, quotation marks around the bits that are quoted from the extract. Lots of you asking about pathetic fallacy. So pathetic fallacy is literally where the weather or the setting or the atmosphere is the same as the emotions of the characters. So pathetic fallacy, a good example would be, you know, in films where people are sad, they're often walking through the rain. So the rain falling is like the tears from their eyes. When you've got people being really happy, quite often the sun is shining and the birds are singing. Yeah. Um, Never say my main man William Shakes again. Now that you've said that, I'm going to make sure that's the way that I mention him every time I mention him. So I appreciate the guidance there. I will absolutely do that. Loads of you are coming up with sounds that you can hear. So she heard the clocks. Well done. Hollow murmurs, sound of distant moans. What else have we got? Sound like receding footsteps. Good. So that's someone walking away. Rekindling breath, I guess that could be a sound potentially. In the pause which succeeded, a sound like receding footsteps and the closing of a distant door struck on her affrighted ear. Yeah, that whole phrase there. Nice. Her blood was chilled by the sound of distant murmurs. Distant moans, hollow murmurs. Strike at intervals for the clocks. Yep. Breath, footsteps. People sleeping, I'm not sure. She mentions the sound of people sleeping. Clocks going tick-tock. Yeah, we would normally spell that with a C, tick, T-I-C-K, tock, T-O-C-K, rather than the app. Okay, so let's see which ones I found. So I got a sound like receding footsteps, closing of a distant door. Noise is more terrific than the wind. So that's one that I haven't seen mentioned yet. The lock of her door was agitated. Remember I mentioned earlier that agitated there wasn't an emotion. It was meaning wiggled or shaken. So the lock on her door was shaken, and that's the sound that she heard. It feels like someone was trying to get in. She hears the hollow murmurs, lots of you mentioned, sound of distant moans, lots of you mentioned, and 3 proclaimed by all the clocks. That is the ticking and the tocking of the clock, although it's probably more likely to be chimes at those hours. So ding, ding, ding to signify that it is 3 in the morning. Okay, so yeah, really, really good spots, guys. So what you've got now in front of you is a nicely annotated, hopefully, looks like mine over here, a nicely annotated sheet. So if asking what does which struck at intervals mean, where am I looking? Struck ad int. Okay, yeah. So in the start of the second paragraph, we've got which struck at intervals. So if something strikes at intervals, it means that it strikes over and over. So at intervals means that there's a pause and then it happens again. Pause and then it happens again. Pause and then it happens again. Okay, so that is striking intervals. When it says strike, so when it says struck, it struck meaning that it was a violent, loud kind of a noise. Okay, so that's what struck at intervals means. Now, what can we say then? One sentence again in the chat. What is it that we can say about the sounds? How can we summarize the sounds? How can we summarize the sounds? So a sound like receding footsteps and the closing of a distant door. Noise is more terrific even than the wind. The lock of her door being agitated. Hollow murmurs and the sound of distant moans. And a 3 being proclaimed by all the clocks. If we pull all of that together, what is it that we are, what impression are we getting in one sentence from the sound? Many strange sounds. Good, that's almost a sentence. Eerie. We're loving that word today. That's our word of the day. I need to add that to the end. So summarizing one sentence, the general sense that comes from the noise. Sunny, the noises brung out Catherine's fears. Yeah, I like that. The sounds are chilling, which adds to the suspense. Love it. The sounds make a creepy vibe. Love that one. Noises are cold and eerie, spine chilling. The sounds are eerie and spooky. I'm so smart. Well done, Bucky. The sounds were a contributing factor to Catherine feeling disturbed. What beautiful English that's written in, Shlot. Well done. Yeah, I really like that. Lovely. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Now, if we were to pull all of these out and just ask the question, what actually happens? What happens in the extract? Now, we've said all of these things. We've identified it. And if you look, the majority of the extract where it's been highlighted there means that most of it is spent talking about her emotions and the weather and the noises going on. There's not really that much that's left in the extract. So somebody tell me in a sentence what happens in the extract. Try and actually pull out the events of the extract, because there's not all that much actually going on. So what happens? One sentence in the chat. Who's going to use a full stop to show that it is a sentence as well? Who's going to impress me with their punctuation control? Let's see. Nice. Spooky noises, chill Catherine, and she can't sleep. Yeah, nice one, that cat. There's not all that much else that's going on. She's alone in the castle, feels like someone is with her. Nice one, Miri. Yeah, I like that as well. She goes to an unknown place, finds a book, candle runs out. You're absolutely right, Caliaris, but remember, that happened before the extract started. So what happens in the extract itself? Bucky, she can't sleep and is hashtag very dramatic. I agree. She envied the quiet sleepers. Yep, agreed. The noises in the house make her paranoid. She shows signs of being unable to sleep. Yeah, love that one shot. She's alone and scared. Someone is there. Finds a manuscript. Candle went out before she could read it, so she tried to go to bed, but the noises keep her awake. Yeah, Lashan, perfect. Awesome. Now, what we're essentially taking from this and these fantastic sentences, keep them coming if you're still typing, but from these sentences, essentially what we're getting is that even though we've got 2 quite long paragraphs, nothing happens. No actual events. If you were to tell this story to someone, let's say that this was your night, right? And you were to tell the story, you would say, so I couldn't sleep last night, and there was a storm, and I was scared, and then I slept. Right? Now, how dull is that? It's so dull when you think just about the plot because the plot is really not doing anything. And that's because this whole extract is all about one word, and that word is atmosphere. Okay, atmosphere is what this whole extract is about. Okay, the extract is not about telling you what happens. What happens is immaterial, it's not that important. What we're trying to create in this extract, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to make our reader feel the fear that she feels. We're trying to make the reader worry about her safety. We're not trying to learn what's going on in her life because there's not all that much. Louis does ASMR. Nice. That's a little side hustle project I'll have to come up with. Yeah, so atmosphere is what we're creating here. So atmosphere has been created by combining the intense emotions, the oppressive weather, and the frightening sounds. Okay, all of those things put together create this atmosphere in the extract. Now, what we call that is horror. Okay, when nothing happens, but we're building tension, we're building suspense, we're worrying about what's going to happen, we call it horror. And then afterwards, if you see something that is the source of all that horror. So let's say that someone actually goes into her room, grabs her by the face, and then they've got like 7 heads, and their teeth are all falling out, and they're like, gnawing on her face with their bloody gums, right? That would be terror. Okay, that's terror when you're actually faced with what happens. Okay, so the horror, if we have over here on the left, horror is where there is a threat. There is some kind of threat, but nothing has been seen yet. And terror is if you were to actually be confronted with something, when the enemy has been spotted. Okay. Now, there was this lady, a writer in the 19th century called Anne Radcliffe. And Anne Radcliffe basically said that horror, kind of like scary stuff, Gothic writing is so much better if we have more horror than we have terror. Okay, so instead of actually showing us things that are scary, we build up, we build up, we build up, we build up all the time, building towards this sense that something bad is going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. Okay, so if you think about, for example, any kind of like scary book that you've read, or any kind of horror film that you've seen, which hopefully are of appropriate age, because most horror films are not, but any of those sorts of things that you come across, you will see that most of the film, most of the book, most of the story is spent building up, building suspense, giving you flashes of kind of creepy things that you might see, giving you sounds that you might hear, building a really unpleasant sense with the weather and the setting and the surroundings being really kind of grim. All of these sorts of things, they build up to a point where we are scared. We are ready for the terror, because if the terror comes too soon, it just doesn't have the effect. Like, if you think about all of those stories, if you were met with a scary thing in the first scene, the rest of the story, the rest of the film, the rest of the book, you're just going to be sitting there like, yeah, well, I mean, I'm kind of over this stuff now. They didn't build me up. I saw it. It was kind of meh. Yeah, so you might initially go, ugh, brother, right? You might see it and you might be kind of a bit disgusted by it and a bit spooked, but essentially you get over it quite fast. Whereas if you do it the other way around, you build up all that time with that horror, slowly, slowly, slowly building, and then bam, you're hit with something near the end. That's what really gets you. That's when those jump scares are effective, right? Think of terror like a jump scare, when you finally actually get confronted with the scary thing. Jump scares only work if you've had a really long, slow build up. Okay, that's basically what we're gathering from all of this. So if you look at the table that I've created here for you, I've gathered together all of the intense emotions on the left, all of the oppressive weather in the middle, and all of the frightening sounds over on the right hand side. And what we've ended up with is a powerful atmosphere for horror. Okay, so let's see if we can do it ourselves. What I've done for you now is I've made a little table. This should be in your workbook as well. It should be just underneath the table that was on your previous slide. Okay. And what it has done is I've put some more intense emotions in there. I've put some more oppressive weather in there, and I've put some frightening sounds in there as well. And what I'm going to ask you to do in the chat and also in your workbook is to bring the horror to life, right? Bring the horror to life by using as many of the things that I've put from the table as you can in your own short piece of writing. So in terms of the emotions, I put the word excruciating, which is an adjective that means painful. I put the word dread, which is a noun meaning fear. And I put obsession, which is another noun meaning you can't stop thinking about something. Okay. In the middle column, the oppressive weather, I've decided to put a gorged, enormous cloud, pregnant and dark. I put rain battering windows with ferocity. I put lightning slice the sky like a murderer with a machete. Over on the sounds side that are frightening, I put an unmistakable sound of a giggling child in the empty house. We're all going to find that quite scary. The clanking of rusted chains, a classic image of horror. Yeah, we've all seen that one before. A rumble of thunder, or was it laughter? Okay, so all of these here in the extract, all of these here in the table, I want you to try and combine into a short piece of writing that you're going to put in the box underneath. So you're going to try and combine as many emotions, as many oppressive bits of weather, and as many frightening sounds as you can, and put it into a short piece of writing. So you can put them into your own workbooks if you want. You can put them straight into the box here that you've got in your workbooks. You can also add your own. Don't feel like you can't add your own intense emotions. Don't feel like you can't have your own oppressive weather. Don't feel like you can't have your own frightening sounds. Absolutely, you're welcome to do that. These ideas are just to get you started, okay? These ideas here, okay? So have a go. Put them into the chat when you've come up with some sentences that combine these ideas. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what you're able to produce, okay? I'm going to give you some time. I will remark on them as I see them coming out. Louis, how do you know I love creative writing? Me too, Sonny. Me too. I'm glad that I was able to gift you that today. Looking forward to seeing what you come up with too. Yeah, I want you to write something now, Safa. So you're going to try and combine as many intense emotions as you can, as many bits of oppressive weather as you can give examples of, and as many frightening sounds as you can. Combine them all together and do a short piece of writing. So if you want, you can just do it as one sentence that combines all three, or you can do a paragraph that would fit into the story that we just read. Entirely up to you the way that you kind of lay it out. Uni Caitlin, I'm better at creative writing than analyzing. Awesome. Awesome. Well, hopefully you enjoy this then. Let's see. So we've got one rolled in so far. Raji, as I walked, I saw a kid using a gun. Thunder blowed. The kid shooted at me. And my heart, I felt like dancing, and then turned into a zombie and ate his organs. Oh my God, that's intense. I don't even know where to start with that one. That's certainly intense emotions. The weather is certainly there. The thunder, I guess, creates the sound as well. So you've got a nice combination there. That was intense. Ate his organs as well. Nice. Adarin Solar, let's have a look. Lightning sliced the sky like a murderer with a machete. A cold breeze triggered the hairs on Lola's arms to stand as the unmistakable sound of a giggling child in the empty house echoed through. Boom. Amazing. Yeah, I love that one. Perfect example. Really, really, really good. Yeah, so a really nice combination of all three. And I like how you've tied it together with your own language, like the empty house echoed through, and that kind of combining of the sounds as well. That's wicked. Love it. Keep it coming. Keep them coming. So we've had two really intense, different, really good ones so far. Let's see what else is going to come up. Looking forward to seeing them. Excruciating as I step through the creaking corridor, I hear a blood-curdling scream with a zap through the sky. Taran, love it. Yes. Um, Amy B, a gorged enormous cloud, pregnant and dark, filled the sky like ink on parchment. At first the feeling was dull, like a gnawing dread in the pits of a cave. Oh, I love it. That is so good. Really, really liking these so far. I really like that simile you've used of the ink on parchment, the way it kind of blots and spreads out like that. Beautiful. Yeah. Chef's kiss. Deepak, lightning struck. The gnarled limbs of the ancient tree grabbed my knee and a shiver went up my spine. A piercing scream. What was that? Love it. Love it. That's so good. Some of these have just scrolled out of my way, so I'm gonna come back over and see which ones I've missed. Yeah, I love that. Walking in the slashing rain, I was come to me by a man who had the voice of a child. Took me to an alley where there, what's that? Where there lay. You'd left me on a cliffhanger, Edit Master 200. I want to know what's happening next. Lashan, as rain battered the windows with ferocity. Bob, love Bob, great name, faced excruciating pain as his kidnapper cut his cut his limbs off one by one. I did not expect that. Meanwhile, Joe walked outside Bob's house and heard Bob's blood-curdling scream. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I've never had my limbs cut off one by one, but I would imagine it's not that comfortable. Keep them coming. These are actually amazing. Oh my god, there are so many of them. I barely got through like a tenth of them. This is so good. I wake up on a bed, just not the same place I fell asleep. I hear rain thumping on a roof like someone demanding to confront. I hear high-pitched whirring whistle from the point of my feet. Love it. Sis, are you there? She said. I like how you use some dialogue. Try and use speech marks for your dialogue, but I love it. Her footsteps sounded unknown to her. Nice. She kept walking, but inside her gut, she felt it. She felt something was wrong. She crept down the stairs. Nice use of punctuation. Yeah, love it. The old mansion stood atop the hill, its crumbling facade casting eerie shadows in the moonlight. The wind whispered secrets through the gnarled trees, and the air smelled of damp earth and decay. Jivan, that's amazing. Love that word facade as well. If you can on your keyboard, facade should have one of those little squiggles underneath the C. See if you're able to do that as well. But yeah, love that. The storm brewed wildly as rain relentlessly attacked the window pane. Suddenly a shadow appeared in the doorway, but no figure. Eyes widening, my eyes widened, but I couldn't move. Interesting repetition there. Love that atmosphere. Other mother's unmistakable sound of giggling child in the empty house. Her ghost presence sent a shiver down my spine. Other mother, is that a reference to Coraline by any chance, Mayuri? Love that. Have a little look at your punctuation, but that's so good. Wow, I literally cannot keep up. There are so many of these. What else? Crazy cat. A gorged, enormous cloud flooded the ray of sunshine. I could hear the rain battering the windows fiercely, and a youth giggling in the hollow house. Lightning struck. Petrified, I screamed. Nice. Nice. These are so good, guys. I'm going to do two more, and then I'm going to show you the one that I've done. I woke up in mud and saw I was covered from head to toe. I got up, but every time I did, I slipped and fell back down and got even muddier. After that, I fell again, and finally, I eat my burger. What? What does that mean? Where's the horror? I'm so confused. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a tough day, but I'm not quite sure it's Gothic. Let's have a look. Her dread grew. Oh, I've lost it now. Who was that? She heard the devious snicker of a 5-year-old, but did not expect much of it. Then she felt her hair standing up abnormally. That was it. The lightning struck. Love that, Sajid. Beautiful. What else have we got? The lightning cascaded onto the castle, a roar of thunder illuminating the entire interior. The screams of the unfortunate struck down as a white light piercing the ground as rain beating down. JJ, I love that. Have a little look at your punctuation because I'm getting a bit lost in the sentence, but the vocabulary is amazing. I said I was going to do one more and I've done like 3 more. So let's have a quick look at what I produced. So this is the one that I did where I tried to combine these things together. I went with a gorged, enormous cloud, pregnant and dark, hovered over the castle. Inside, curled up in his chair, Louis rocked with dread. The excruciating prospect of another night alone, confined in this hellhole, listening for the clanking of rusted chains to once again confirm his impending doom, came close to killing him. Lightning sliced the sky like a murderer with a machete, and the rain began, causing Louis's rocking to intensify. Okay, right. So there is a little insight into my my typical weekend as I sit there drifting slowly into insanity. Now, all I've done there is I've just pulled together as many of those things as possible. Now, did I do all of them? No, I didn't do all of them because I didn't want to overdo it. I didn't want it to be too intense. But I managed to include dread. I managed to include excruciating. I managed to include this first one about the cloud. I managed to include the sound of clanking chains, and also the lightning slicing the sky like a murderer with a machete. Now, I would still need to include these laughing sounds to make it extra creepy, and perhaps the rain battering the window with ferocity, but I could do that as I continued my piece of writing, okay? So it's not going to be a completely, I'm not going to do all of them, okay? So it's never going to be perfect. Someone has just asked me, Safa has just asked me, why does it say pregnant? I'm so glad you asked. I'm so glad you asked, because this is one of the metaphors that I really, really like. Okay, I really, really like this this idea of a pregnant cloud, because I was thinking, right, a cloud like this looks fine, okay, but if it is really heavy in the bottom, okay, if it's getting really heavy in the bottom, it's starting to become kind of thick and swollen in the bottom as if something is trying to burst out of it. I thought, what sorts of things get thick lower down as if something's going to burst out of them? Oh, I know, pregnancy. Okay, and I just thought, wow, what a bizarre and weird metaphor to use for a cloud being really full and ready to burst. I thought, when it comes to Gothic literature, when it comes to Gothic writing, what I like to do is to try and make it feel creepy and weird. Okay, so I could have said, the cloud was, bursting full, right? Okay, that could have been cool. That could have been good. But I thought, well, if I really want to creep people out, why not put something in which is supposed to be, pleasant and exciting and kind of family values like pregnancy, but instead I decided to go and put that into a really horrifying thing about the weather being really oppressive and dark and scary. Okay, so that's why I picked that particular metaphor. Now, I think that with when it comes to forming metaphors, and we're going to do that in a couple of lessons time. We're going to look at really good metaphors, but I kind of feel like when you're building a metaphor in the Gothic, the whole point is to try and freak people out. It's to try and make people feel uncomfortable. So, for example, you might just have, let's say that you've got 2 characters kissing. But instead of kissing, you could say that their lips were consuming one another like parasites. If I use that simile instead, yes, it's still a kiss. Nothing has changed there. But the way that I've described the kiss is now really creepy and weird. And suddenly it fits into Gothic writing, because Gothic writing is about making you feel uncomfortable, about making you feel scared. That is exactly what we're trying to achieve in a piece of writing like this. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking for. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, I'm glad that we are all brother-ing at that one. While so romantic, yeah, yeah, agreed. Um, some of you are getting a little bit worried about the gross stuff that I'm coming up with. Yeah, but that's the point. That's Gothic literature for you. In next Thursday's lesson, what we're actually going to be looking at is um, how we can create really disgusting, disturbing characters that make you feel kind of freaked out and creeped out, because that's what Gothic writing is all about. So you can be a really great writer who produces really beautiful things, or you could be a really great writer who produces really nasty things, and it's nastiness that we are producing in the next few lessons. Okay, so that's the goal. Moving forward, that is the goal. Now, some of you were asking me about books. Really good question. I might produce a recommended reading list and put it onto the site. I think that would be a really good idea. I'll make a note to do that. Because I think that would be really nice to share with you guys the sorts of things that I think would be really great to read to boost your imagination, your vocabulary, all of those sorts of things. Okay. If you want to recommend books to each other, then do feel free to in the chat. I'm happy with that. That's cool. Now, let's see if we can remember what it is that we've covered today. So sounds are what? Emotions are what? Weather is what? And horror versus terror. What is the difference? So feel free to put those into the chat as we finish up for today. Let's just remember these ideas that we've learned today. Now, I am loving, by the way, that people are still writing their stuff in the chat for me to go through. I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through when we close today and see what else you've come up with. But I'm really liking these. So as night falls, strange noises echo through the empty halls, and piercing screams send shivers down their spines. Suddenly, something unseen grabs one of them, dragging them into the darkness. Nice one, Safa. That's wicked. So good. Some of you asking about Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Love it. Absolutely. Yeah, great choice. Lightning sliced the sky like a murderer with a machete. The cold breeze shattered the broken glass to pieces as the unmistakable sound of a giggling child in the empty house echoed through. Nice, good combo. Bucky asking, literally suck at creative writing. How do I get better? Not even exaggerating how bad I am at it. Well, all of these techniques that we're coming across will help you to improve. Lashan, skin peeling off and his guts keep spilling while he walks and is held together with a string. That's disgusting. Why are we insisting on being so disgusting? Right, who can remember? Who can remember? So someone's just asked, what's a machete? It's a really big knife. Okay, it's kind of like a sword. October, yeah, great book. Alex Rider, classic series. That's been going since I was a kid as well. Right, some of you have just started recommending books to each other. So for those of you who are doing the work on the screen, I'm going to say that the emotions are, and you can check these if you've done them yourself, the emotions are intense. The sounds are frightening. The weather is oppressive. And horror versus terror. Lots of you are starting to answer this one. So that is where we build. And terror is where we reveal. Some people saying jump scare. Yeah, completely agree. Jump scare. And people saying build for tension. Sorry about my handwriting at the bottom of the screen. It's quite hard to get down there. Let's see how you're defining it. Terror is mostly the feeling of dread that precedes a horrifying experience, and horror is for a frightening sight, sound, or otherwise experience. Yeah, Aishan, love that. Aisha, yeah, really good stuff. Um, What else? Hypnotizing night. Let's see. A hypnotizing night shimmered across the city. The light switched off, thundering. As she jumped off the building, the body fell like a light feather. Body fell on the ground. She's dead. Wow, that's intense. That is intense. Lots of people still recommending books. Happy to give some comments on the books that you're recommending. Someone's mentioned Matilda by Roald Dahl. Completely agree. Roald Dahl. There's lots of really good stories from Roald Dahl. They're quite old, quite sort of old-fashioned in places, but they're still really good stories, really engaging characters. Some of you have mentioned some classics. So Dia Sood has said Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, Treasure Island, Tom Sawyer. Yeah, so kind of adventure type stories, Treasure Island and Tom Sawyer. Again, quite old, but they're classics for a reason. They're really good. What else are people recommending? Louis does English. You look like Thor from Avengers. I don't know if anyone's told you that before, but yeah. Thank you. Yes, I had a year 7 tell me that recently. Although they did say before that I was more like Thanos, which was less kind. Someone has recommended Purple Hibiscus is a good book if you're interested in different cultures, different society standards. Yes, I would say that's kind of more targeted towards kind of slightly older readers, and I would recommend kind of having a conversation with your librarian or parents about whether it is suitable at your particular age, because I know there's lots of different age groups in this chat so far. But yes, completely agree that Purple Hibiscus is a very powerful book. Dork Diaries. I haven't actually come across Dork Diaries myself. Lots of votes for the Alex Rider series. I still remember those. What else? What else are people recommending? David Walliams books. Michael Morpurgo, absolutely, absolute classic. Good Night, Mr. Tom. Is this a good book? Yeah, it's great. I actually used to teach that as a book back in year 7. Yeah, again, it's quite disturbing, but it is a fantastic book set during the war. Ruby Redford, yeah, agreed. Lots of these books that people are recommending are really old. I love it. Absolutely love it. Some of you recommending the Bible. Yeah, I've read that one. It's also pretty intense. Warhorse, again, another vote for Michael Morpurgo. What else? Hunger Games, again. So that's kind of sort of mid-teen level, I would say, because of the quite disturbing scenes when it comes to sort of the dystopian world. But again, it's great. Percy Jackson, yeah, can't go wrong with the Percy Jackson books. Yeah. Darren Shan, wow, that really takes me back. I would say about 20 years ago, I was reading, no, probably more like 25 years ago, I was reading Darren Shan books. They're super intense, kind of vampire related stories, but yeah, superb stuff. Holes, another classic. Divergent, the Divergent series, people are really enjoying that. Haven't actually read that one yet, but it's quite similar to the Hunger Games and the Maze Runner and stuff. Anyway, we are coming to the end of our time. I'm really glad that we finished this with an unplanned conversation about books. I'm so glad that you're recommending books to each other. Fills my little heart with joy. You guys are amazing. Also, a big shout out. Someone's just mentioned Tom Fletcher. Usually aimed at a slightly younger age group, but I do love lots of his kind of children's books. He's from one of the bands that I used to like when I was younger, McFly. Anyway, I know lots of you are off format with Neil, and so I'm going to let you go. Feel free to carry on recommending books in the chat. That's absolutely fine. I will go, but I will let the chat continue to to go for a few minutes more if people want to carry on recommending books to each other. That's absolutely great. Um, People asking me about Taylor Swift. I think I know who this person is asking me about Taylor Swift, by the way. I still don't like Taylor Swift. I'm sorry. Um, anyway, have the best evening. Enjoy maths. Say hi to Neil from me. Um, and yeah, have the best evening. For those of you asking what band I was referring to, it was McFly.